The genesis of the Doolittle Raids can be traced back to the devastating surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese on December 7, 1941. The attack not only crippled the United States Pacific Fleet but also dealt a severe blow to American morale. In response, there was a strong desire within the U.S. military and political leadership to retaliate and demonstrate to the Japanese and the world that the United States was capable of striking back. Challenges. The challenge was to find a way to launch a counteroffensive against Japan, which was well protected and seemingly out of reach for the limited-range bombers available at the time. Enter James Doolittle, a highly experienced aviator and aeronautical engineer. Doolittle proposed a bold plan to launch B-25 Mitchell bombers, medium-range aircraft from aircraft carriers. This was an unprecedented and risky idea, as the B-25s were not designed for carrier takeoffs. Method: 16 B-25 bombers were selected for the mission, and volunteer crews were extensively trained for short takeoffs. The USS Hornet, under the command of Captain Mark Mitcher, was chosen as the carrier for this audacious endeavor. The plan was to bring the carrier task force within striking distance of Japan, launch the bombers for a surprise attack, and then continue towards China, where it was hoped the crews could land safely in friendly territory. Targets. On the morning of April 18, 1942, the task force, including the USS Hornet and its escorts, reached a position about 650 miles off the coast of Japan. The B-25s were launched earlier than planned due to the task force being spotted by a Japanese patrol boat. The raiders, led by Doolittle himself, conducted bombing runs over various Japanese cities, including Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, and Osaka. While the physical damage inflicted on Japanese targets was limited, the psychological impact was immense. The audacity of the raid and the fact that enemy bombers had reached the Japanese homeland shocked the Japanese leadership and population. The Doolittle Raids forced the Japanese to divert resources for homeland defense, impacting their overall war strategy. Aftermath. After the bombing runs, the B-25 crews faced the challenge of reaching safety. With insufficient fuel to return to the carriers or reach planned airfields in China, many crews crash-landed or ditched at sea. Some crew members were captured by the Japanese, and a few lost their lives. However, the majority of the raiders survived, and many eventually made their way back to Allied lines with the help of Chinese civilians and resistance fighters. Impact. In terms of immediate military impact, the Doolittle Raids did not cause significant damage to Japanese war-making capabilities. However, strategically, they had far-reaching consequences. The raids lifted American morale at a crucial time, proving that the Japanese homeland was not invulnerable. The psychological boost provided by the Doolittle Raids was instrumental in shaping the course of the Pacific War. Additionally, the raids had implications for Japanese strategy. The diversion of resources for homeland defense, particularly the decision to keep a significant number of aircraft in Japan for air defense, contributed to the weakening of Japanese forces in other theaters. This, in turn, facilitated subsequent Allied offensives in the Pacific. Legacy. The Doolittle Raids showcased the ability of the United States to adapt and innovate in the face of adversity. The audacious use of aircraft carriers and the successful execution of a long-range bombing mission against a formidable enemy demonstrated American resolve and ingenuity. The legacy of the Doolittle Raids resonated throughout the war, symbolizing the commitment of the Allies to take the fight to the Axis powers on all fronts.